I think syncretism is on the rise in our community.
Okay.
And I think that's a thing that's happening across the board.
Yeah.
That people are mixing Christianity and something else.
Hey, friends. This is just as I was thinking with Abdu. And as you know, these are just a couple of videos. Once in a while, I just get a thought in my head and I start thinking about something and I start talking about it on the videos. Well, this morning, I just got back from a long trip and I was on Twitter and I was going to email my good friend Lisa Fields and her staff about getting her on a podcast with me. And then I looked on Twitter and I happened to notice that she was going to be in the Detroit area this morning. And so I jumped immediately at the chance to get her in the studio live, to which she graciously agreed. And here she is. Welcome to the studio, Lisa.
Thank you for having me.
What a great opportunity here. One of the things, as I was thinking, was, as you know, I wrote a book recently called "More Than a White Man's Religion," and I addressed the issues of how does the Bible address ethnicity? How does Jesus address different ethnicities, women as well, and gender equality and these kind of things. But so, of course, as I was thinking, when I saw your tweet about you being in Detroit, doing some great work with some friends of ours over at Woodside Bible Church. I was thinking, what a great opportunity for us to just hear about your ministry, what you do. A lot of folks who watch this probably already know about your ministry, but there's plenty of folks who might not know or not know as much as they should. And they need to know a lot more. However much you know, you need to know more. And of course, I happen to be using Lisa's cup for her ministry. And our cup for our ministry is on the other side over here. It's a little hard for her to reach because she's got to reach one other props. But well, Lisa is the president and founder of the Jude 3 Project. You can find out more about what they do is jude3project.org. But I'm going to stop talking as much as I've been and just ask a couple of questions here and there. But the first question is, give us a good overview of what Jude 3 is all about.
Yeah, it's really an organization to help Black Christians be able to articulate, well, first know what they believe and then be able to articulate it to others with gentleness and respect. But also we engage skeptics through the work that we do as well, to help bring them along and help them reimagine faith, because culture has demonstrated Christianity sometimes in a way that's not Christian.
Yeah.
And so we want to help them see Christianity, that the Bible, a biblical Christianity.
Well, this is important because typically people tend to view African Americans, especially, I think Africans in Africa and other parts of the world as well, people of African descent, as very religious people, especially in the American context. I think religion, church is a big part of growing up. It stays that way throughout their lives. But tell me, do you see a shift going on there, or what is the need for Jude 3? Not just, I think, discipleship, but is there an evangelistic need for the kind of work you do?
Yeah, so I think historically, Black people have been very religious. I think we're still a very religious people. People are just choosing other options outside of Christianity.
Okay.
And I think that's the shift, that there's a decline in people who are identified just as Christian. They might identify as Christian plus something else.
Okay.
So I think syncretism is on the rise in our community.
Okay.
And I think that's a thing that's happening across the board.
Yeah.
That people are mixing Christianity and something else.
Yeah.
Because they don't think Christianity is sufficient for the needs that they have.
Yeah.
And so I think what we're seeing is people not feeling like Christianity has worked for them. And so they still have a emotional tie to it.
Yeah.
But they feel like they need to incorporate other things.
Yeah. So, I mean, I can think about it like it's the tradition that they grew up in, or it's my mom, my dad's belief, my grandma's beliefs, my grandpa's beliefs. So I want to respect it. But at the same time, maybe they've seen some deficiencies. Well, I want to park there for just a minute or two. Could you give us sort of a summary view of what are the things that are being found to be deficient? You know, there is a difference between Christendom, you know, in other words, the history of Christianity, or those who labeled themselves Christians, and Christianity itself in terms of its core beliefs and this kind of thing. What are the perceived deficiencies that people say I need to add something else or go to something else in the African American community? What do you think those deficiencies are?
Yeah, I think identity is a big one. I think this perceived idea that Christianity is oppressive. It leaves you powerless. I think also one big one is peace.
Okay.
Yeah.
So describe like peace, like civil peace, or do you mean like inner peace or
inner peace?
Okay.
I think that's a big one across the board because people want peace. And when I see them dabbling in crystals and sage, it is to create an atmosphere of peace.
Yeah.
And so it's like Christianity didn't provide me with peace.
Okay.
That is supposed to give us the peace that surpasses all understanding.
Yeah.
But I don't have that.
Yeah.
So what can I get that will give me that peace that I'm looking for?
Yeah, that's great. And, I think about the idea of peace and where people run to in various ethnic communities within the United States. For example, the West gets very enamored of the East. And of course, they forget that Christianity essentially is a Middle Eastern, North African, eventually got to the West, but didn't start there, kind of religious experience or religious understanding of the world. So they'll run to the Far East and they'll say, okay, whether it's Hinduism or Buddhism or Taoism or whatever it is, these are the things that give me peace. Or they run to the Western versions of these things. Those Eastern religions have Western daughters, and among them are the New Age and the New Spirituality and these kind of things. And I think about that peace it's not just a lack of conflict, it's actually a sense of wholeness. And the Christian faith actually can provide that to us. You and I did a show actually on the idea of karma and Christianity, and they're not this, obviously that's not a thing that is compatible with the Christian message, even though there are some aspects of what you sow, you shall reap, but that's not what karma is. So we talked about that quite a bit. So I'm so thrilled you're aware of that stuff and seeing that difference. But let's talk about the idea of identity, because you did something, Jude 3 did something that is uncommon, and I would even say remarkable for apologetics and discipleship ministries. You actually made a documentary to address this issue of identity and the Bible and Christianity. So tell us more about that.
Yeah, so we saw that people were being converted to African spirituality or Hebrew Israelism through videos on Facebook, YouTube, and through memes. And when we would ask them, like, where are you getting this information? They would always point back to a video. And so it's like, you're not reading, but you're watching. And so if you're being converted through viewing, then we need to engage you where you're most likely to engage.
You're where they're present,
And so that was through video.
Okay.
And so we thought a documentary would be the best way to respond to this narrative is Christianity, white man's religion. You could give people a book, but they're more likely to watch a documentary than read a book.
So what's the title?
Unspoken.
Unspoken. Yeah. And what is Unspoken? Like, why is it called that?
Yeah, because so much of Christian history about the Black presence in the Bible and the Black presence in early Christianity goes unspoken. Yeah. And so we wanted to give voice to the history that we felt was unspoken.
Yeah. And that's great, because that fact alone, I think gives a lie to so much of the narrative we've been taught is that Christianity is a white Western imperialistic religion that was imposed upon people of color, as opposed to it was the white Western imperialism that was actually influenced by a darker-skinned, olive-skinned, North African, Ethiopian-influenced church that was burgeoning that actually influenced Rome, as opposed to Rome influencing it. Yeah. And I think that's a tremendous thing. So, but this documentary isn't just like, a camera pointed at you in a room. This is far more involved than that. Can you give us a little more flavor of what people would get if they watched Unspoken in terms of the production quality and the different voices that are in there?
Yeah, I'm so pleased with how it turned out. We have a number of different scholars, probably a dozen scholars and influencers in there, like Lecrae, Jackie O'Perry, Vince Bantu, Esau McCauley, Catherine Gerbner, so many different scholars, and it took us 4 years to put it together.
Wow. Yeah.
And so we shot some stuff at Baylor with Dr. David Wilhite in the library. That's amazing. Yeah. That's like one of the most stunning backdrops we have. And just different locations all across the country to really want to present something that is visually appealing, but also intellectually rigorous, but also engaging to the everyday person.
Yeah.
And I think we accomplished that through Unspoken.
Well, I'll tell you this, whether you think this is an issue or you don't think it's an issue, this is the kind of thing you should watch anyway, because I think you'll get some information you didn't have before.
Yeah.
You'll hear some voices you didn't hear before. It's not to me, it's got an obvious point to it. But it is a documentary in the sense it's saying, here are some facts that you need to know about and draw your own conclusions from those facts, but we can't let this go unspoken any longer.
Yeah.
How can people get a hold of it?
Yeah, it's on Amazon Prime. So you could go to Amazon Prime Video and type in Unspoken and rent it or buy it there. Oh,
excellent. Excellent. So that's widely available. And most of you, if you don't have Amazon Prime, my guess is hopefully you'll get it so you can get this movie. And that's what it is. It really is a motion picture quality documentary. It's not the kind of thing, and I've seen the stuff in it. It's not the kind of thing where, like I said, you just point your iPhone at somebody and ask them some questions. It's far more production quality than that. Yeah. What else does Jude 3 have to offer? You guys have curriculum, you have these kind of things. What else do we have to offer?
Yeah, we have our national conference every year, Courageous Conversations, which is coming up this year, August 30th through September 2nd.
Okay.
And
where's that at?
In Washington, D.C.
Okay.
Yeah, at National Community Church. And it's a unique event because it is a conference solely based off conversations, which, usually doesn't happen. But we find that people are more engaged in the conversations and it helps them hear their own argument. And we bring together liberal and conservative scholars, thought leaders, and pastors to talk about very complex issues. This year's theme is renewed faith, moving from deconstruction to reconstruction.
Oh, great.
And so we're talking about the themes of what it means to reconstruct a faith after you've deconstructed. Okay. And so we're excited about that.
Well, it's a timely topic because obviously deconstruction is all over everyone's feeds, whether it's social media or just in their churches. In fact, tomorrow, depending on when you see this, I will have done or will be doing an outreach for pastors to talk about deconstruction, what church leaders can't afford to not know. So this is exciting. So just one quick thing on the way Courageous Conversations works. It's based on conversations. Is the audience interacting with the presenters? Because most conferences you're being talked at, and you get an occasional time to do Q&A. Is it different in some way?
Yes, so we do 45 minutes of conversation. The scholars have conversation
on the stage. Okay.
But then during the conversation, you get a chance to send in your questions.
Okay.
Via a platform, Pigeonhole.
I'm familiar.
Yep. And then the moderator will ask the questions from the audience for the last 30 minutes.
Oh, great.
So it's 45 minutes of just discussion and the 30 minutes of Q&A.
Great. Well, in a world where we have a lot of echo chambers, Courageous Conversations, you're going to hear some opinions you won't agree with, but that's a good thing for Christians to be exposed as much as they can to beliefs they don't agree with so that they can learn to, have their faith tested, because when you're with somebody who doesn't agree with you, they've thought about your view and they may have thought about it in a way you didn't think about it, and you being able to respond will shore your faith up. But you'll also understand where it is that there's roadblocks between people. So they indeed are courageous. So thanks for doing the work you do, Lisa. Jude3project.org. Friends, you really should take a look at the website if you haven't already done so. You have a podcast. Is it called the Jude 3 Podcast?
Yeah, Jude 3 Project Podcast.
Okay, yep. I've been on it, and a lot of other great people have been on it. You just did a series. In fact, I think you just tweeted about it. You did a series on the Bible.
Yeah. We did the trustworthiness of the Bible series.
From various aspects.
Yeah. So we had, should LGBTQ people trust the Bible? Should Black people trust the Bible? Should we trust the New Testament? Should women trust the Bible? Should we trust the Old Testament? Yours was the Bible with other sacred texts. And there's one more. And then we just did a broad, should we trust the Bible, to introduce it.
Excellent.
So we had 8 different episodes.
Excellent. Well, you're going to get unique perspectives and really good stuff. at thejudefreeproject.org. Lisa, what a tremendous pleasure it was. What an unexpected pleasure it was to see you coming down the road not too long ago. In fact, you just landed this morning.
Yes.
And we were able to make this work. So I'm just blessed by the serendipity of it all. So thanks so much for being on.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.